Picture this. You have a hero, right?
Okay.
He's standing in this mythical, just sprawling landscape.
Right.
He raises a giant, glittering sword high into the sky, and magically, instantly, he is imbued with unimaginable cosmic power.
Oh, wow.
Now, here is what is actually missing from that picture. There is no tragic backstory explaining, the psychological weight of the sword.
Of course not.
Right. There's no dark, gritty origin montage explaining the socioeconomic conditions of this magical realm.
Right, right.
And there's definitely no scene where the hero stares into a mirror brooding about the burden of leadership.
Just straight to the point.
Exactly. It is just pure, unadulterated, unapologetic fantasy. I mean, it's a guy, a sword, a lightning bolt, and, well, a whole lot of muscles.
It is the kind of image that honestly defined an entire era of pop culture.
Oh, absolutely.
But, crucially, it is also the exact kind of image that modern cinema has spent, the better part of the last 2 decades trying to apologize for.
Yes. And that is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
We are so thrilled you're here with us because today we are looking at something that, honestly, I was highly skeptical about when I first saw it in our reading pile.
You and me both.
Our source for this deep dive is a newly published Spanish-language review of the highly anticipated 2026 film, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
And we aren't just talking about a polite nod from a critic.
Not at all.
This is an absolutely glowing review, a perfect 5 out of 5 stars from a serious film critic.
Which, if we look at the historical data for this specific genre,
Oh, yeah.
the whole toy-to-film adaptation thing, particularly ones rooted in 1980s properties,
Right.
that score is a statistical anomaly.
It really is. So our mission today, for you and us together, is to unpack how this happened.
Exactly.
Like, how did a movie based on a 40-year-old franchise,
Yeah.
literally created by executives in a boardroom, just to sell plastic action figures to kids in the 1980s,
Literal.
somehow manage to score a masterpiece rating today?
It's a huge question.
I read that premise, and my first thought was, okay, did they turn He-Man into Hamlet? But according to this review, the secret to its success is the exact opposite. It scored 5 stars by utterly and completely rejecting modern Hollywood conventions.
Which is so rare.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to me, we are not just looking at a movie review here.
No, not.
We are looking at a really fascinating case study in how pop culture evolves.
I would argue it is a perfect lens for understanding the current inflection point in studio filmmaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. What the reviewer has provided us with here operates as a brilliant roadmap for understanding a very specific, very pervasive audience fatigue.
Oh, that makes sense.
Hollywood has been handling legacy properties with a very rigid playbook for a long time now.
They really have.
And this review suggests this film succeeds entirely because it takes that playbook, rips it in half, and just throws it out the window.
See, I need you to walk me through the mechanics of that because the review gets right to the point.
Right.
It explicitly states that this is not a modern, serious reinvention of the character.
No, not at all.
The critic says the film doesn't try to hide what it is.
Right.
It praises the original's virtues, and it masks its flaws with humor and elegance.
Elegance is an interesting word there.
It is. The reviewer points out that the magical realm of Eternia never needed to ask for forgiveness for being a kingdom of muscular warriors, skeletal nemesis, and fantasy castles.
Exactly.
But, isn't that what we've been told audiences want?
Right.
For the last 20 years, haven't we been trained to expect our fantasy to be grounded?
We absolutely have, and that is precisely why this reviewer's perspective is so vital right now.
Okay.
Let's look at the concept of the gritty reboot.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
For a long time, the prevailing wisdom in the industry has been that you have to ground fantastical concepts in stark reality.
Right. To make them, palatable to a modern, sophisticated audience.
Exactly. The assumption was that audiences wouldn't accept magic unless you explained the pseudoscience behind it. They wouldn't accept a colorful villain unless you provided a deeply traumatic, highly grounded psychological motivation for their villainy.
Which usually involves, a lot of desaturated lighting and rain.
Yes. Rain is mandatory.
Always.
But it all stems from an institutional fear of looking silly.
Right.
The studios looked at these inherently theatrical, colorful properties and felt a deep sense of embarrassment.
So they engaged in a process of deconstruction.
Exactly.
It is like the cinematic equivalent of being a teenager and suddenly deciding all the toys you loved as a kid are embarrassing.
Right, so you hide them under your bed.
Yes. But instead of hiding them, Hollywood just painted them gray and made them miserable.
That's a great way to put it.
We've talked before about this idea of disguising fun as prestige cinema.
We have.
The studio takes a vibrant, ridiculous concept, a guy named He-Man fighting a skeleton man in a purple hood,
Right.
and they try to blend it up with realistic political intrigue until it is just this murky, joyless sludge. They are serving a nutritional green smoothie and telling us it's an ice cream sundae.
Oh, right.
And the reviewer is saying, finally, someone just gave us the ice cream sundae.
What's fascinating here is the psychological mechanism behind why the sundae works better in this case.
Okay.
The reviewer notes that the film constantly borders on excess.
You're right.
And that it is deliberately ridiculous at times without feeling the need to justify itself.
Wow.
Now, psychologically, when a film tries to justify a fundamentally absurd premise by making it overly serious, it actually invites more scrutiny from the audience.
Wait, really? How so?
Yeah.
I would think taking it seriously makes the audience take it seriously.
It's the opposite, ironically.
Oh, interesting.
If you present a man flying through the air as a grim, scientifically accurate military experiment.
Right, like an Iron Man situation.
Exactly. The human brain immediately starts looking for the flaws in the physics.
Oh, that makes total sense.
We start picking apart the logic because the film is asking us to evaluate it on the terms of our real world.
Right.
But when a film embraces its own theatricality, when it says to the audience up front, yes, this is ridiculous, we are operating on dream logic, come along for the ride.
Right, like a stage play almost.
Exactly. It disarms our critical faculties. It suspends our disbelief in a much more effective way because it builds trust.
The movie isn't lying to us.
Exactly. The movie isn't lying to us about what it is.
Yeah.
And the reviewer emphasizes this point heavily. The movie knows exactly what it is, but above all, it knows what it doesn't want to be.
And what it doesn't want to be is embarrassed.
Precisely.
It refuses to have any shame about a hero getting magic powers by pointing a sword at the clouds.
Zero shame.
And when you look at the architecture of the film, looking at who is steering the ship, it starts to make sense.
It really does.
The review specifically names Travis Knight as the director,
Right.
noting his background with the incredible stop-motion animated film Kubo and the Two Strings.
That's a good movie.
Right. That feels like a very deliberate piece of evidence the reviewer is using to explain how this tone was achieved.
It is a vital piece of context.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think about the mechanics of stop-motion animation, which is Travis Knight's specialty, it completely rewires how a director approaches framing and storytelling.
Okay, how so?
Well, Kubo and the Two Strings was a masterclass in visual myth-making.
Oh, visually stunning.
Stop motion requires a level of deliberate physical craftsmanship that you just don't necessarily get in a purely digital environment or, a standard live action shoot.
It's like to build everything.
Right. You are literally moving armatures millimeter by millimeter.
Wow.
Every single element on screen, from the lighting to the fabric to the forced perspective of the sets, is meticulously constructed by hand.
So it forces a director to be inherently theatrical.
Exactly.
You can't just throw a camera on a shoulder, follow an actor around, and shoot it like a documentary.
No, not at all.
You have to compose every single frame like a painting.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So when the studio brings a director with that specific, obsessive theatrical background to a project like Masters of the Universe, it implies a production design that is vast, colorful, and highly stylized.
That makes a lot of sense.
The review mentions the film works perfectly well as a sincere sword and sorcery movie.
Right, right.
This tells us that Knight has brought that same meticulous craftsmanship to the live-action realm of Eternia.
So he is treating the fantasy with absolute seriousness in terms of its visual execution.
Exactly. The visual execution and world building.
Right.
But crucially, he is not treating the tone with inappropriate grimness.
Right.
He respects the world enough to make it beautiful, rather than making it dark to hide the seams.
Okay, I am tracking with the theory.
Good.
A beautifully crafted, unashamed, vibrant fantasy.
Yeah.
I get why a critic would find that refreshing, but I have to push back here.
Okay, go for it.
Because there is a massive red flag in this review that we absolutely need to address.
I think I know what you're going to say.
The runtime.
The 132 minutes.
Yes, 132 minutes.
It's a lot.
That is nearly 2.5 hours. I read that and immediately got a headache.
Huh? Fair enough.
I mean, you just outlined a movie that borders on excess and is deliberately ridiculous.
Right.
Usually that kind of hyper-stylized bombast is fun for about, 85 minutes?
Yeah, an hour and a half tops, usually.
And then the sensory fatigue sets in. So how does a movie that refuses to be grounded sustain that level of energy for over 2 hours without just exhausting the audience?
It's a valid question. Normally, your skepticism would be entirely justified.
Right.
A 132-minute runtime for a highly theatrical genre film is a monumental risk.
Huge risk.
But the reviewer directly addresses this,
Okay.
claiming the time passes with surprising ease.
Wow, okay.
And they point to a very specific narrative engine that keeps the momentum going.
Which is?
The characterizations.
Okay.
The review states the film relies on impossibly perfect heroes and villains who enjoy being villains.
Oh, man. Villains who enjoy being villains.
Yeah.
That phrasing stopped me in my tracks when I read it.
It represents a significant departure from the current screenwriting consensus. For the better part of 2 decades, the trend, almost a requirement, really, has been the sympathetic antagonist.
Oh, 100%.
The villain whose motivations are so densely layered, so rooted in genuine grievance or complex trauma, that you almost agree with them.
Which is great. We've had some phenomenal movies built on that exact dynamic.
We absolutely have the Killmonger effect.
Exactly.
But it has become a default setting.
Right.
And that default setting has a narrative cost.
Okay, tell me about that cost.
When every antagonist requires a dense psychological evaluation, it inherently slows down the pacing.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You have to pause the adventure for exposition, for flashbacks, for moral debates.
Right, the narrative becomes heavier.
Exactly. What this reviewer is celebrating is the cathartic, propulsive energy of a theatrical, larger-than-life villain who simply relishes their own wickedness.
So you were saying a villain who loves being evil actually speeds up the movie.
Absolutely. Think of it as narrative aerodynamic.
Aerodynamics, I like that.
A villain who is unabashedly evil, who doesn't need a 20-minute flashback to explain why they want to conquer the universe,
Right.
acts as an accelerant for the plot.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
It simplifies the moral landscape, but not necessarily in a bad way.
Right, it just clears the runway.
Exactly. Clears the runway, allowing the adventure, the action, and the kinetic energy of the film to take center stage.
Right.
The momentum never drags because you aren't constantly stopping to litigate the villain's childhood trauma.
That makes a lot of sense, but I imagine it is an incredibly difficult tone for an actor to strike today.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because modern actors are trained in irony.
They are.
They're trained to find the nuance, the subtext, the little wink to the audience that says, I know I'm wearing a giant skull mask, isn't this silly?
Right.
How do you make a villain who enjoys being a villain work in 2026 without it devolving into a flat, boring Saturday morning cartoon?
It is perhaps the tightest rope an actor can walk. There is a distinct difference between a character being flat and a character being theatrical.
Okay, unpack that.
A flat character gives the audience nothing to engage with.
Right.
A theatrical character requires a massive output of charisma and absolute unwavering commitment.
Wow.
The actor cannot, for a single frame, signal to the audience that they feel superior to the material.
They have to play the sheer joy of megalomania with total sincerity.
Exactly.
Because if they wink at the camera, the illusion breaks.
Right.
The stakes evaporate, and you're just watching people in silly costumes on a soundstage.
Precisely. And this ties directly into how the film apparently handles the other great trap of the modern reboot,
Which is?
the legacy audience.
Oh, right.
The reviewer has a line about how the movie addresses its 40-year history that is arguably the most insightful observation in the entire text.
Yes, the condiment quote.
That's the one.
The reviewer writes, the nostalgia acts as a condiment, not an argument. Or, depending on how you translate the sentiment, nostalgia is the seasoning, not the main plot.
If we look at the mechanics of franchise paralysis over the last few years, that, quote, perfectly diagnoses the illness.
Franchise paralysis.
Yeah, over-relying on nostalgia is what kills momentum.
Absolutely.
And nostalgia is the main course when the entire structural integrity of the plot relies on the audience recognizing a specific vehicle or remembering a quote from a cartoon episode aired in 1985.
Right.
You create an incredibly exclusionary piece of media.
I love that analogy, but let me tweak it a bit, because I think it works even better if we think about music.
Okay, let's hear it.
Nostalgia in a movie should act like the bass line in a song.
Oh, I like this.
You feel it keeping the rhythm, it anchors the experience, and the longtime listener appreciates the groove.
Right.
But if you strip the bass line away, the actual melody, the current story, the new characters, the immediate stakes, still has to be catchy enough for someone who just tuned in to want to dance to it.
That is a phenomenal way to articulate it. If the melody fails without the bass line, the song isn't actually good.
Exactly.
The reviewer notes that the nods to the fans in this film are distributed intelligently.
Right, intelligently.
They provide that rhythmic anchor for the people who have loved Eternia for 4 decades.
Right.
But they don't obstruct the melody for a newcomer.
That's the key.
The nostalgia isn't doing the heavy lifting of the storytelling. The sincere, propulsive adventure is.
Which perfectly sets up the specific cinematic DNA the reviewer points to.
Yes.
Because they aren't just calling it a generic action movie.
No.
To give readers a sense of the exact frequency this movie operates on, the review draws 2 very distinct comparisons.
Right.
They say this He-Man film shares DNA with Dungeons & Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Those are highly illuminating reference points, both tonally and structurally.
Oh, for sure.
And they tell us a great deal about the reviewer's thesis on modern cinematic maturity.
Okay, let's examine the Dungeons & Dragons comparison first.
The reviewer explicitly states that both He-Man and D&D share a fundamental understanding of what fantasy is meant to be.
Which is a playground for adventure, action, and humor.
Exactly. But, crucially, a space that still allows for genuinely endearing characters.
The line that really stood out to me was when the reviewer pointed out that neither He-Man nor the D&D movie confuses maturity with cynicism.
That is such a powerful distinction.
It is. They don't feel the need to artificially darken their universe just to appear adult.
Right.
This feels like a direct shot across the bow at a very specific type of Hollywood prestige logic.
It is a profound critique of how we, culturally, have defined mature storytelling for the last quarter century.
Right.
Since the early 2000s, maturity in genre fiction became inextricably linked to bleakness.
It really did.
If the visual palette was desaturated, if the protagonist was deeply compromised and miserable, if the moral universe was entirely gray and cynical,
Right.
critics and audiences were trained to view it as a mature or elevated take on the material.
But the reviewer is arguing that cynicism is actually the easy way out.
It is.
It takes far more maturity to be sincere.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is incredibly easy to have a character roll their eyes and make a sarcastic quip about how ridiculous the situation is.
Right, it acts as a defense mechanism for the writer.
Yes, it's so safe.
Exactly.
But it is incredibly difficult to have a character stand there in a furry loincloth, raise a glowing sword, and genuinely, earnestly try to save the universe without apologizing for it.
Exactly. Sincerity demands vulnerability from both the filmmaker and the audience.
Wow. Yeah.
And that brings us to the Guardians of the Galaxy comparison.
Let's talk about that.
The reviewer asserts that He-Man shares that same playful tone,
Right.
built on a foundation of pop songs, slow-motion heroic imagery, and a constant, permanent awareness of its own theatricality.
Now, when I read pop songs in slow motion, my mind instantly goes to a kind of manufactured music video aesthetic.
Sure.
But I don't think that's what the reviewer means.
No, definitely not.
With Guardians, the theatricality wasn't a joke at the character's expense.
That is the crucial distinction. Guardians of the Galaxy was a massive risk because it invited the audience to marvel at the absurdity of its premise.
Right. I mean, a talking raccoon and a sentient tree in space?
Exactly. It leaned into the theatricality using 1970s pop music to heighten the emotional beats.
Right.
But it never, ever treated the emotional arcs of those ridiculous characters as a joke.
Right. The stakes were real.
The pop songs and the slow motion didn't undercut the emotion, they made it operatic.
Oh, I like that. Operatic.
They elevated the sincerity.
But here's where the review pivots from artistic critique to genuine commercial anxiety.
Yes, this part is fascinating.
It is, because you rarely see a critic openly worry about the box office in a review like this.
Almost never.
The reviewer literally writes that they are praying by the power of Grayskull.
Naturally.
That this He-Man movie avoids the commercial fate of the Dungeons & Dragons movie.
Right.
And instead manages to capture the zeitgeist like Guardians did.
It reveals a deep understanding of the fickle nature of the modern theatrical marketplace.
Oh, completely.
The reviewer knows that artistic quality and pure entertainment value do not always translate into financial viability.
Sad but true.
Dungeons & Dragons. Honor Among Thieves is the perfect cautionary tale.
It really is.
It was widely praised by critics and the audiences who actually went to see it.
Yeah.
It delivered on everything we're discussing: earnestness, humor, thrilling action, a rejection of grimdark tropes.
Everything.
Yet, as the reviewer somberly notes, it was an undervalued commercial attempt.
It failed to launch a franchise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas Guardians, operating on a very similar frequency of earnest absurdity, made billions and altered the trajectory of pop culture.
So I have to ask you, as someone who studies these trends,
Okay.
why? Why does one joyful, sincere fantasy movie completely flop, while another, with almost the exact same tonal goals, becomes a cultural juggernaut?
That's the big question.
Are audiences just hypocrites who say they want fun but only buy tickets for gloom?
It is rarely that simple.
Right.
The disparity often comes down to complex, interlocking factors like brand momentum, market saturation, and the cultural baggage a property carries.
Cultural baggage, okay.
When Guardians was released, the Marvel brand had unprecedented momentum.
They could do no wrong.
Exactly.
What?
Audiences had built up an immense reservoir of trust with the studio, which allowed them to take a leap of faith on an unknown, weird, cosmic comedy.
That makes sense.
Dungeons & Dragons, conversely, carried decades of incredibly niche, often stigmatized cultural baggage.
For sure. The whole basement nerd stereotype.
Exactly. And it was released into a marketplace that was arguably saturated with high fantasy content.
Right.
The reviewer's anxiety is rooted in the fear that even if this He-Man film is a 5-star masterpiece of sincere joy, the broader audience might be too entrenched in their viewing habits to give it a chance.
It really makes you wonder about our collective viewing habits.
It does.
I want to ask everyone listening right now to just take a second and evaluate your own media diet over the last few months.
It's a good exercise.
Think about it. How many movies or shows have you watched where the hero's victory felt hollow,
Right.
where every character was hiding a dark secret, and the overarching message was that the world is inherently broken?
There's a lot of it out there.
Are you feeling exhausted by that relentless cynicism? If the answer is yes, then perhaps a return to this kind of unashamed, pop music-fueled heroism is exactly the antidote you are craving.
It is a compelling proposition.
Yeah.
But what is truly remarkable about this review is that it doesn't just praise the film for being a fun throwback.
No, it goes deeper.
It moves into analyzing a specific, highly deliberate, creative decision that elevates the film from a simple nostalgic ride into something the reviewer considers culturally significant.
Right.
And it centers on the film's handling of character legacy and subtext.
Okay, yes. You need to transition into this because this is where the movie apparently takes its biggest, boldest swing.
It really does.
According to the text, the film addresses a dimension of the franchise that has lived entirely in the realm of audience interpretation for decades.
Right.
The reviewer explicitly states that He-Man has long occupied a singular, vital place within the queer imaginary.
The source text is very direct about this historical context.
Yeah, it is.
It points to the specific aesthetics of the 1980s proper.
Right.
The hyper-muscular character designs.
Yeah.
The specific, almost statuesque poses utilized in the original animation and marketing.
Yeah.
And the notably stormy, highly charged dynamic between He-Man and Skeletor.
Right.
Over the past 40 years, these elements made the franchise a major reference point for a significant portion of the LGBTQ+ community.
And just to be absolutely clear for you listeners, we are strictly reporting what the reviewer has highlighted in their critique here.
Exactly.
We aren't endorsing any specific view, just conveying the source material.
Right.
The reviewer is enthusiastically observing that this 2026 film stops pretending this cultural link doesn't exist.
Which is huge.
Historically, studios have either ignored that kind of audience interpretation or kept it buried deep in the subtext.
Very deep.
But according to the review, this movie actively acknowledges it.
Yeah.
It introduces double meanings and clear metaphors that make the message unequivocal.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Okay.
this creative choice aligns perfectly with the broader thesis of the film we've been unpacking.
Which is that total rejection of shame.
Exactly. This idea of rejecting shame. The film refuses to be ashamed of being a colorful toy commercial.
Right.
It refuses to be ashamed of magic swords and skeleton villains.
Yeah.
And according to the review, it absolutely refuses to be ashamed of how a massive segment of its audience has lovingly interpreted its characters for 4 decades.
It is the ultimate rejection of the safe, sanitized corporate route.
It really is.
The reviewer has this incredibly vivid quote to describe the execution.
Let's hear it.
They write, "He-Man and the Masters of the Universe doesn't just have gay subtext. It presents itself as the lead float at the Pride Parade. And believe me, you want to get on it."
It is a striking image.
Oh, absolutely.
And it underscores the reviewer's assertion about the film's commitment to extroversion.
Right.
By fully embracing this interpretation, the filmmakers have transformed what was once implicit subtext into a celebratory explicit text.
Wow.
It represents an analytical decision to honor the actual, lived cultural footprint the franchise left behind.
Which honestly fascinates me from a business perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you consider how these properties usually function. How historically studios are terrified of alienating overseas markets or conservative demographics by acknowledging queer subtext in legacy properties.
Terrified is the right word.
They usually focus group these things to death until they are completely neutral. So what do you think changed in the Hollywood risk assessment calculus to make this not just a viable strategy, but apparently the defining characteristic of a 2026 tentpole release?
It points to a growing realization within the industry that forced neutrality is often the quickest path to cultural irrelevance.
And more about that.
When a franchise ignores how it has been genuinely consumed and loved by a community, the resulting product often feels disconnected.
Right, sterile.
Sterile, exactly, and manufactured. By leaning into the subtext, as the review indicates this film does with tremendous joy,
Yeah.
it taps into a reservoir of authentic cultural resonance.
Right.
It makes a property feel remarkably alive, rather than like a carefully preserved museum piece.
That makes total sense.
It is a gamble, certainly, but one that this reviewer believes pays off brilliantly.
And speaking of bringing this universe to life, we have to talk about the physical reality of this movie.
Yes, let's get into the details.
Because the details we get in the final section of this review, the cast, the plot synopsis, and one absolutely unhinged piece of criticism. Yes. They paint a wildly vivid picture of what is actually happening on screen.
The technical sheet provided at the end of the text offers some essential data points.
Okay, lay them out for us.
We have already discussed Travis Knight at the helm.
Right.
And the hefty 132-minute runtime.
Still stressing me out.
The release date is slated for June 5, 2026.
Okay.
But the writing team is particularly noteworthy.
Who do we have?
It includes Chris Butler,
Okay.
the Nee brothers Aaron and Adam, and Dave Callahan.
That is a fascinatingly diverse writing room.
It really is.
You have Chris Butler, who brings that indie stop-motion animation sensibility.
Right.
You have the Nee brothers, who directed The Lost City and really know how to balance big action with screwball comedy.
Exactly.
And then you have Dave Callahan, who is basically an architect for massive superhero blockbusters like Shang-Chi and the Spider-Verse movies.
Right.
It explains the tone perfectly. Indie craftsmanship, comedy, and massive scale.
Yes.
And then there's the cast list.
The ensemble assembled here is robust.
It's crazy.
The review lists Nicholas Galitzine,
Okay.
Camila Mendez, Jared Leto, Idris Elba, Alison Brie, and Marina Baccarin.
Okay, the review doesn't explicitly map the actors to the characters.
No, it doesn't.
But we can make some highly educated guesses based on those names.
Definitely.
Nicholas Galitzine has been playing princes and romantic leads for years. He seems like the absolute lock for Prince Adam and He-Man.
It's perfect casting for that type of role.
Right, and Jared Leto. If we are talking about villains who enjoy being villains and leaning into theatrical excess...
Oh, absolutely.
Jared Leto as Skeletor makes an almost terrifying amount of sense.
It aligns perfectly with the film's mandate for unashamed theatricality.
It really does.
Furthermore, anchoring a world of glowing swords and magic, with actors carrying the gravitas of Idris Elba and Marina Baccarin, is a crucial balancing act.
Yeah, that's true.
It prevents the absurdity from floating away completely.
I mean, I would pay double the ticket price right now just to see Idris Elba in full Eternian armor, delivering lines about cosmic power with absolute deadpan seriousness.
I think we all would.
And the synopsis the reviewer provides sounds like pure, distilled classic fantasy.
It does.
It states that Prince Adam returns to Eternia after years away.
Right.
He has to face the tyrant Skeletor, recover the legendary Sword of Power, accept his destiny as He-Man, and lead the Masters to decide the future of the galaxy.
Very clean structure.
It's clean, it's epic, and as we know, it resulted in a 5-star rating, described as a colorful and fun costume party without filters or shame.
However, we must address the single point of friction in the review.
Yes, we have to.
Nestled in the final summary box, the reviewer offers one very specific and highly perplexing piece of criticism.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my favorite part of the entire review because I was genuinely confused.
It's out of left field.
Under the section labeled the worst part of the movie, the reviewer writes a single sentence. They say, it's hard to empathize with someone who works giving motivational talks and organizing company dynamics.
This inclusion demands careful textual investigation.
Yes, please.
Because it seems entirely incongruous with everything else we have discussed.
Completely.
Relying strictly on the information provided in the source text, we must hypothesize about how this fits into the narrative.
Right.
The synopsis notes that Prince Adam has been away from his home for years.
Okay.
This critique strongly implies that during his exile, presumably on Earth or a similar mundane realm, Prince Adam's civilian identity, his day job, is that of a corporate motivational speaker.
Wait, hold on. Let me just visualize this.
Okay.
Are you telling me that the heir to the throne of Eternia, the man destined to wield the sword of power, is spending his exile doing trust falls and PowerPoint presentations about corporate synergy in a beige hotel conference room?
That appears to be the exact juxtaposition the reviewer is describing.
Wow.
The phrase organizing company dynamics points unmistakably to modern corporate team-building exercises.
Yeah, it does.
It introduces a jarring element of contemporary mundane reality into a film that we have established as otherwise an unapologetic magical fantasy epic.
It is. Well, it's actually hilarious.
It is.
It completely clashes with the mythical vibe.
Completely.
Imagine being a mid-level manager at a logistics company on a mandatory retreat.
All right.
And your motivational speaker suddenly rips off his polo shirt, pulls out a giant broadsword, and screams, "By the power of Grayskull," because he has to go fight a skeleton.
What's an incredible mental image.
Why on earth would the writers include something so inherently mundane in a movie about excess?
We can speculate that it functions as a satirical device.
Okay.
By placing a mythical prince in the most banal, heavily structured environment imaginable, modern corporate culture,
Right.
the writers are highlighting the absurdity of our own reality compared to the freedom of Eternia.
Oh, I see.
A traditional prince leads armies. A modern exiled prince leads seminars on workflow optimization.
Oh.
It is a clever, if perhaps jarring, thematic clash.
But clearly, it didn't entirely land for the reviewer.
No, it didn't.
They specifically flagged it as making the character hard to empathize with.
Right.
And I get that. If you want the audience to buy into this guy as a legendary savior, having him talk about actionable deliverables right before he picks up the magic sword might be a bit of a tonal speed bump.
It's hard to revere a guy who reminds you of your boss.
Exactly.
Indeed. And this specific, quirky, creative choice leads directly into the broader, lingering doubt the reviewer expresses at the very conclusion of the text.
What's the doubt?
They fully acknowledge that the film successfully resurrects a universe born to sell plastic toys.
Right.
But they pose a vital demographic question. Will this film, with all its specific tonal swings, manage to convince age groups other than millennials?
Which is the million-dollar question for any of these legacy properties.
He always is.
The millennials are the ones who grew up with the action figures in the sandbox and the cartoon on television.
Exactly.
The reviewer is pointing out that a 132-minute movie shouldn't just exist as an inside joke for people in their 40s.
Right.
If it is genuinely a 5-star masterpiece, the story and the spectacle have to work for Gen Z, for Gen Alpha, and for the boomers who bought the toys but never understood the lore.
It is the ultimate test of narrative durability.
Yeah.
Can a property transcend its generational origins?
Right.
The reviewer hopes it does, but recognizes the risk.
Because it's so specific.
Exactly. The hyper-specific tone, the bold embrace of the subtext, and potentially jarring comedic elements like the corporate motivational speaking.
Right.
It might prove challenging for those outside the initial target demographic.
Yeah, that's a fair concern.
However, returning to our earlier musical analogy,
Let's bring it back.
if the film truly relies on nostalgia merely as the rhythm section,
Right, the bass line.
while ensuring the melody of the new adventure is strong, sincere, and captivating,
Yeah.
then it stands an excellent chance of bridging that generational divide.
It has to invite everyone to the dance floor, not just the people who already know the steps.
Beautifully said.
And bringing this all full circle, this review paints a picture of a movie that looked at the entire landscape of modern, brooding, cynical blockbusters.
Right.
Looked at the pressure to be dark and gritty and just laughed.
Huh.
It picked up its glowing plastic sword, threw on a furry cape, and decided to throw a massive, unapologetic party instead.
To synthesize what we have unpacked today from this remarkable text, the critical triumph of this 2026 Masters of the Universe adaptation does not stem from a desperate attempt to elevate its source material into a prestige drama.
No.
It succeeds precisely because it trusts the inherent joy of its source material.
Right.
By actively rejecting cynicism, refusing to apologize for its theatrical excess, and shedding any sense of shame regarding its origins or its cultural legacy, it delivers an experience that this reviewer considers a 5-star triumph.
Amazing.
It proves that earnest, unashamed theatricality still has a vital, potent place in modern cinema.
It really does. It is a fantastic reminder that sometimes we don't need our heroes to be miserable for a movie to be good.
Right.
Sometimes we just need them to be heroes.
Exactly.
Thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive into the surprisingly profound world of Eternia.
It's been great.
We hope you enjoyed unpacking the mechanics of this wild review as much as we did.
Absolutely.
So what does this all mean for the future of the movies we watch?
Good question.
Well, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay.
We've just spent all this time exploring how a movie featuring a hyper-muscular man fighting a skull-faced villain achieved a perfect masterpiece rating.
Right.
And it did it simply by fully, unashamedly leaning into its own inherent, colorful ridiculousness.
Yeah.
If sincerity and joy are the new recipe for 5-star success, what other untouchable childhood properties are out there right now, sitting in a studio vault, that could benefit from completely dropping the dark, gritty act?
Oh, that's a great point.
What other forgotten universe is just waiting for a director brave enough to throw a vibrant, unashamed party? Think about it. We'll see you next time.